Hey fiber friends, welcome to episode 14 of the Botanical Knitter Vlogcast.
But I lie awake, wondering why.
I'm Emily. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and you can find me on Instagram as The Botanical Knitter and on Ravelry as Botanical Knitter. Everything I talk about today is going to be listed in the video description below, and you can find more details that I will probably forget to mention on my Ravelry project pages. Let's start out with what I'm wearing. This is the Uptown Tee by Tori Yu. Tori is Tori Knits NYC on Instagram. I test knit this pattern last spring and have plans to knit another. This one has this really beautiful sleeve texture lace pattern. It has an I-cord rolled neckline and the body. I'm wearing it with a skirt that I thrifted over the weekend. Hooray for Goodwill. And I also wear this to the Capitol. So I'll wear this pretty regularly with some dress pants, a jacket over it. I think it's a really nice polished looking garment. I would knit this for sure again, and I think I would do kind of a mashup of two of Tori's patterns. So I would keep the neckline, the sleeves of this pattern, and then I would do the hem of the Brooklyn Raglan or the Brooklyn Tee. That's ribbing, and then it does the scallop hem on the sides where it kind of curves up and down for that little cute shaping detail piece. I have some yarn in my stash that I purchased from Flock Fiber Festival. That's a yak silk blend. And I think that would be so pretty in this garment. I used a Tencel. I can't remember. The yarn company went out of business. And this was with wool and Tencel. And it has a really nice drape to it. So that's what I'm wearing. I have several finished objects to share with you since it's been a while since I last filmed. The first is the Small Fry Scarf by Samantha Guerin. I test knit this for Sam. You heard me talk about this and I showed you like this much of the pattern on my last episode and you're like, Emily, that is not the yarn you showed us. And that's because I changed my mind. I was using hand spun and was doing a gradient or trying to do a gradient, and I just wasn't loving the stitch definition in my hand spun. I wasn't loving the browns. I was thinking to myself, I'm never gonna wear this, and it was feeling like a chore to knit only because I knew I wasn't gonna wear it. So I was sitting at Dandelion Fiber Co. staring at this color, and I ended up buying it. So this is Blood Orange on the Merino base from Knitting for Olive. And I ended up knitting this in maybe 4 days because I loved the color and I love the texture of the pattern in the yarn. When I wear this, I kind of fold it a bit and then I wrap it, but do it the other way around. You know what I'm saying, right? So it's a little bit longer of a scarf than maybe the Sophie scarf from Petit Knit, but it's so cute. Isn't that just adorable? I think I look like a French chef. The other day I had it on with a blue and white striped shirt and I was like, yes, chef. You want a baguette? Let's do it. So cute. I think Sam Guerin is still doing a knit along for this. So if you want to hop in and make your own, you absolutely should. I will say it's pretty modifiable. If I was to do it again, I think I would not do as many increases, just to skim off maybe 1.5 inches. And as you're knitting the pattern, you'll see how you can modify it just to keep doing the same couple of rows over and over again, and then start with your decreases. So would recommend this, would knit it, have worn it a bunch. It's perfect for transitioning when it's still kind of chilly, but it's not too warm where you're sweating wearing it. And I just think I feel really sassy when I wear it, and I like that vibe. All right, my second finished object is the Musselburgh by Ysolda Teague. Musselburgh, you know what it is. I ended up knitting it and gifting it to my dad. So here's a photo of that. I used the 2023 Pie Day yarn from Pigment and Ply, and you saw this on an earlier episode. I cast it on for some movie knitting. I finished it pretty quickly on the drive home to Wisconsin and gave it to my dad. My dad wears hats every single day. Doesn't matter the season. He wears a hat when he sleeps. It keeps his head warm. So it's safe to say almost all hats that I knit are gonna go to my dad. My third finished object is the Lento sweater by Jonna Helin, Helin. Isn't it so beautiful? I used Falling Snow from Knitting Lizard, that's the Suri, and the brighter pops of color are from Biches Bûches, Petit Lambswool in the colorway Candy. The Suri from Knitting Lizard has pops of green and blues and pinks. It's really subtle. And so this does the perfect job of the Candy pulls that out so nicely. It is this really lovely iridescent moment. I like the shaping of the raglan. It's still a little puckery in my arms. I've decided that raglans just aren't my favorite fitting garment on me. I'll still knit them, but a yoke I feel like fits me better, a circular, rounded yoke, circular yoke. I like my label. I've worn this several times, mostly with pink pants or a pink jumpsuit because I feel like the pink just makes it pop. I knit this as part of Dandelion Fiber Co.'s Lento knit along and did it in about a month. And this pattern goes very quick. I went down a needle size and I knit a size 3. So it's definitely roomy on me, which I like. I knit the body a little bit longer than what the pattern calls for, and I'm happy with the fit. If I was to knit a third, I would modify the neckline so it's not as wide. But no problems with it, I'm fine. All right, my last finished object, I talked about a little bit in the Yarn Shop Hop video because I was wearing it, and it's the Skyline tee by Tori Yu. So the same pattern designer as this top. If you can't tell, I love a Tori Yu pattern. I test knit for her pretty regularly. I can't really say no. The patterns are well written. They're this perfect balance of like potato chip vanilla and a little bit of construction or pattern detail to make it interesting and really make it stand out. So what I love about this one, it's the saddle shoulder construction, which I had never done before. So it's knit in the round and flat top down, which was great for being able to try it on as I go. I like the neckline. I modified by adding an extra 1/2 inch to the neckline because I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, which I'm really happy with. The ribbing detail of the shoulder goes down into the sleeve, which I think is really beautiful. You pick up for the sleeves, and then here's the body with about 2 inches of ribbing on the bottom. If I was to do it again, I think I would do a twisted rib for the collar and the cuff. Maybe not the cuff, but the hem. I just think for my knitting and my knits and purls and 1x1 aren't always the most even when I tinker around with it. I think that a twisted rib always looks a little bit nicer, and I do not mind knitting a twisted rib. The yarn is glorious. This is Schrute Farms from Treehouse Knits. And some of you might be saying, Emily, didn't you talk about using a different yarn? Yes, I did. I was going to use a mystery pack set that I had gotten from ZZ Textiles. It was Gloam on non-superwash, so it was like pinks and purples, but like very moody. And I didn't love how it knit up in the swatch on its own. So I think I'm gonna save that and hold it with Suri to really pull out maybe more of that peachy color and brighten it just a bit for my skin tone. And so I switched to Schrute Farms from Treehouse Knits Office Collection. I was gonna save this yarn. I was so happy for it. I love the office. I love the colorways. It's very me colorway. And then I was like, why am I saving it? So I used exactly 2 skeins of yarn for this. So I have 1 skein left over that I will probably knit a Musselburgh for my dad out of, because these are kind of his colors too, but we'll see. But love this, would highly recommend this. I want to knit another. I am thinking of knitting another one in Knitting for Olive's silk base, because I think the drape would be yummy. This is a pretty tight fitting garment on me. I did a size 4 and I used the needle sizes that the pattern calls for. I would do a size 5 with the needle size the pattern calls for, just for a slightly different fitting garment. I really do like my gauge and how the fabric looks with these needles. And that's everything I knit since I last filmed. Let's talk spinning. I've really been spinning quite a bit lately. I usually spin on my matchless and then will ply on my electric eel. I have the 6.0, I think that's the eel that I have. But lately I've been spinning on both my wheels, which is kind of fun, which means I haven't been plying. I usually ply, let my bobbins rest and then ply as I go, but I'm just pushing through my current spin. If you watched my Shepherd's Harvest haul from 2023, you saw me talk about these gorgeous braids of tweedy, lovely bit. It's 80% South American wool, 20% neps, combed top 4 ounces from Gwen, Erin Natural Fibers. And I purchased 4 braids that faded very softly. So it started with a green with some pops of red, or like this purple, then like a bluer green with red, and then a lighter purpley green, and then ends with this purple. And I started spinning it and had a hard time with my consistency because of the tweed. So I put it away until recently, haven't touched it. And I think I've just improved as a spinner, and also have done a better job of learning, thanks to experience, about how to prep my fibers better before I spin them, which has made spinning this a lot easier. I originally purchased it to do a pressed flowers cardigan. I purchased some yarn from folks, I can't remember the farm's name. He has a farm, and I got CBM blend, I believe, from Indigo. I'll find it and I'll drop it here. That was going to be my main color, and then hand spun for my contrast color. But again, because I was having such a hard time with it, I just put it away. So I started spinning this, and I split each braid, I split each braid in half, and then I steamed it. And then I really pre-drafted it, and that has helped so much. So this braid I still haven't touched. Here is the first braid. Isn't that pretty? And then I'm almost done with the second braid. Here's the first half. Oop. There. And I have maybe half an ounce left of my second bobbin. And then I started to spin the other purpley one last summer before I realized I wasn't loving it. And I was having motor issues with my electric eel at the time too, so that didn't help. So it's definitely a little bit thicker, but I'm just gonna keep spinning the rest of the braid and know that like a quarter of the skein of yarn might be a little bit thicker, but that's okay. That's fine. That's what hand spun's for. And then I'll spin this one. I don't know what I'm gonna knit with it yet. I do think maybe I will go back to my original plan of doing a pressed flowers cardigan or using it for a colorwork sweater. I don't know yet. We'll see how much yardage I get. I spun these to pretty fingering weight for each, so it'll be like maybe a heavy DK light worsted ply. Pretty inconsistent because I'm still, still learning to spin, honestly. But I'm excited to see how that knits up. Whip time. I want to knit everything. This always happens with the changing seasons. I want to cast on everything. I think there's naturally this excitement that comes through Instagram, and I see on YouTube too, of all of us are kind of feeling this way. We're sharing patterns, we're seeing new patterns, new yarns, like just this excitement, and I have that. I cast on 4 things this week. 4 things. 4. It's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. Okay, let's just dive right on into it. So the first thing that I cast on and briefly showed in my shop hop is the Felix cardigan. This yarn is amazing. It's a little bit different from my Lento and that it's definitely more of a rainbow. And I'm just using one yarn together. So this is new yarn that will be coming out from Get Bentz Farms in June. It's Zombie Ewenicorn, E-W-E, get it? For Zombie Apocalypse. But I think Teresa plans to make this available on her website after, and I'll be sure to share it with everyone. It is BFL and Merino with silk kind of throughout it. So it creates this really nice color that's spread evenly throughout. And because of it's just so many colors all at once, I haven't had to alternate skeins at all, which is such a fun way to knit, right? Just to let the yarn do its thing. I am knitting a size 2 of the Felix cardigan. I am knitting on 10s, so the same needle size. And I am pretty spot on with my gauge. I finished the raglan detail, which I just love that. I think it's so pretty. And then I've split for sleeves and I'm about 5 inches, almost 6 inches into the body. It calls to knit 10 inches and then do your ribbing and then pick up your sleeves and then eventually the button band. I have never done a button band before, so that will be a new to me experience, but I'm really happy with how this is going. I plan to knit a second one for Teresa, so we'll have matching Felix cardis that we will be wearing at Zombie Apocalypse, and maybe we'll do like a little make along so we can all have these wonderful Zombie Unicorn sweaters. Did I say why it's called Zombie Unicorn? It's for Zombie Apocalypse, which if you're not familiar with, is Stockinette Zombies started their own knitting retreat in Rochester, Minnesota called Zombie Apocalypse. And it is a couple of days where folks come together, we knit. There's some informal classes. All year leading up to it, there's like a knit along and all these things. This is my second year going. I went last year and enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be going back. And then on the last day of Zombie Apocalypse is a public market that anybody can attend. I went to the public market for the first time in 2021, and that was my first time as a new knitter at anything like that. And I remember being so overwhelmed. So I'm excited for Zombie Apocalypse. Once I can post and share more about it leading up to it. So if you live in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, the area, and you want to come to the public market, you'll know about it. All right, my second whip is one that I talked a little bit about also in the Shop Hop vlog last week. And that is Hello From My Colors by Jessie Made. And, oh, good. I was like, did I just pull all of that off my needles? No, I have it on a barber cord. I had a little bit of color crisis. The first colors that I had picked out weren't quite right for the vibe that I wanted. And so I switched them around and now I'm liking them. They're very moody, planty. Somebody commented that and I was like, yep, it is me. So I have green for my main color and then I'm doing this white, a darker gray, purpley, bluey, and then a soft purple. All of it is knitting from Olive. Here's the ochre, green, white. So here's all my colors. Hello from my colors. Please, Emily, chill. Okay, so that's that. Slowly working on this one. This is what I started last week. Slowly working off and on this week, this far. No rush to finish it. It'll be a short sleeve cropped top that I can wear in the summer. And that is in that crafty little fox bag. I'm knitting a size 3 in the needle size the pattern calls for, and it will be maybe a little bit roomier, not as much negative ease as some of the project pages. My third finished object is a test knit for Jennifer Steingass. It doesn't have a name yet, and it will be out in June, I think, and it is beautiful. I can't wait to block it. My tension's a little wonky through the increase section, but my tension on like the last kind of bits of without the increases is a lot better. So you pick up, it's a rolled color, which I really love the look of that. I'm going to knit mine short sleeve, but I think the pattern can be long sleeve as well. I'm probably going to do a slightly cropped fit. Again, that's my vibe for summer and spring knits, so I can wear them with high-waisted skirts, pants, over a dress, and then it hits my shape nicely. I'm using 2 yarns from Fiber MacGyver. This one I think was springtime. I picked it up at Shepherd's Harvest, both of these at Shepherd's Harvest last spring, knowing that I wanted to do a colorwork top with the variegated as the main color and the tonal as the contrast color, and I think it's knitting up really nicely. I cast this on a week ago, so last week Monday, and have had so much fun knitting it. I have 20 rows left in the chart, and then I'll split for sleeves. I think there's some more short rows that will happen. And then it's done. I'm hoping to finish this in time to wear it to Shepherd's Harvest on May 11th. So I will let you know how that goes, but I think I'm gonna get it done. I put away Hello for my colors so I can focus on this. And here's a hot take on a test knit. Ready for this? When you start a test knit, pretty soon after you get the pattern and you slowly work on it, it's more enjoyable because you're not rushing to finish it. And you're not hurting your wrists to rush to finish a pattern. Maybe I did that in the last test knit I did because I was trying to finish a sweater and a hat, and I thought, oh, 3 weeks is plenty of time. It is, but also, why not just spread it out? So learn from me, and I'm enjoying a test knit. Imagine that when you're not rushing, you can like something a little bit more. And then my last whip is a pair of socks in my Kettle and Hearth project bag. I cast these on for shop hop just to have a little bit of vanilla knitting when we're just walking around. These are shorty socks from Summerly, all the frills. The yarn is Coconuts from Lavender Loon. It was one of my monthly sock subscriptions from Lavender Loon last year. My first time knitting with any of them. I thought this color would be so fun for some frilly little ankle socks. So working on my gusset decreases right now. I feel like it might be a little snug, but that's okay. My tension is getting really tight. I'm working on trying to wrap my yarn around my finger to even out my gauge. But I also think I'm highly stressed right now, and that means I'm like on everything, which is fine. Oh, I forgot my new crochet project. Hold on, be right back. Sorry for that squirrel moment. I wanted to show you my granny stripe blanket. Here it is. I am really enjoying crochet. I think it's because it feels like a new challenge for my brain, and I am just doing a really scrappy project. So here's the bottom, here's the top. I'm trying to map out my yarns like 3 or 4 in advance and trying to just like make the transition make sense, but it also doesn't matter. I like crochet. So I asked on Instagram for recommendations for a crochet hook. I had splurged and bought one of the Furls hooks because they're so beautiful and I like it, but somebody said to do the Clover Amore, and I started it last night and it is so nice. It's light. I wish this neck part was a little bit longer, but I actually have really enjoyed it. And I did 3 colors last night and had no wrist issues at all. And I actually find that I hold the hook looser with this one, which is nice, like no death grip. So really enjoying knitting, crocheting this. I have a bunch of my half skeins in this basket, which is perfect. As you know, occasionally my dog likes to go diving for yarn, and this thrifted basket is perfect because it has a lid. And so I'm just working on this as I have time, as I have interest, when I want to break between knitting and spinning. I'm crocheting now. Who knew? So thanks everybody for all of your recommendations on crochet hooks. I do plan to eventually film a little video on A Knitter Learns How to Crochet where I'll share some of my YouTube tutorials that I found helpful, patterns on Ravelry that I found helpful. I'm really self-taught at this point. I haven't done a class yet or really had somebody in person help me. And so sharing that just in case classes aren't around and available to you, though I am far from an expert at crochet. Still learning how to count, but it's still fun. So that will come eventually, probably after I get through session in May. I feel like I cooked through that, but shorter episodes are okay, right? So yeah, those are all my whips. I'm really enjoying everything I'm knitting, spinning, crocheting right now. I am planning to do an episode soon about my summer knitting and sewing and crochet plans. I am very much a seasonal sewist. I don't really sew in the winter, but in the summer I really do because I love making dresses and skirts to wear with my knits. And I have a couple of sewing patterns in mind. I have some new fabric that I'll share, so that'll be on a future episode. Shepherd's Harvest is coming up. That's a fiber festival here in the Twin Cities. It's in the Washington County Fairgrounds, which is in the East Metro, closer to the Wisconsin border. That is on May 11th and May 12th, which is Mother's Day weekend. It always falls on Mother's Day weekend. I will be hosting a knitting crochet craft circle meetup on Saturday, May 11th from 1 to 3. There's a lawn area outside the main barns by the food trucks. Bring a chair, bring a blanket, bring your whip, and let's just hang out and chit chat. My favorite part of Shepherd's Harvest is seeing what other people are making and kind of purchasing and shopping at a leisurely pace. So last year I did this where we would just kind of sit around and then I would get up and I would go look at a different barn and I would sit down and I would think about it and then I would go back. It just kind of takes away the urge for me to impulse buy, where I'm sitting, processing and seeing what others are buying, especially if like I passed over a booth too quickly, then I'll go back. I will also be staffing the Three Rivers Fiber Shed booth on Saturday and Sunday. So if you're at Shepherd's Harvest, stop by the Three Rivers Fiber Shed booth to learn more about the shepherds and makers that are a part of the Fiber Shed. The Fiber Shed's going to be hosting a knitting, making, crocheting make-along through the spring and into the summer, where you can knit or crochet a project using wool or yarn from a Fiber Shed member, and then you can pick whatever pattern you want. And there will be a scavenger hunt at Shepherd's Harvest, so you can be sure to interact with some of the shepherds and makers that are part of the Fiber Shed, learning more about that local wool economy that we are lucky to have in our Fiber Shed area, which is Minnesota, a bit of Wisconsin, and a bit of Iowa. Here's a plug for my Sheep to Shawl video where I talk all about kind of the Three Rivers Fiber Shed, its purpose, my experience going from sheep to shawl. And if that's something that interests you, Shepherd's Harvest is a great way to start that process. Some makers will have small bags of fiber that are probably already washed and skirted, picked, right? Skirting is when you're picking out the short bits or the vegetable matter, or honestly, the poop and the pee from the sheep. And so a lot of the hard work is done. And so all you have to do is process it and spin it and knit it or crochet it. And I shouldn't say all you have to do because it is pretty labor intensive, but it is wonderful to experience that. So I think Shepherd's Harvest is a great way if you want to buy a little bit of fiber instead of buying the whole fleece. You can get smaller amounts. If you're interested in that process, you want to know more about it, watch my Three Rivers Fiber Shed video, or just feel free to comment me, DM me on Instagram, and I'll share more about my experience with you and can connect you with people who are so knowledgeable and can really support you throughout that whole process. We aren't doing a brew and knit with you in May because of Shepherd's Harvest, so that won't be happening. So if you're waiting to see when that's happening, we'll see you in June. I think we have to reschedule the June date because it's Father's Day weekend. Session is nearing the end. We're in the last month of session. One of my bills is dead for the year, which is really frustrating. But at least I know kind of what to expect the rest of session. I have a couple of issues still in play, so I'll still be busy. But one less thing, I guess, to be working on, which really honestly sucks, and I cried a lot last week. I've been reading. I'm reading The Women by Kristen Hanna. It's about Vietnam. I think I talked about that in a podcast. It is so good. I've cried multiple times and I'm only halfway through. I'm also reading the third book in A Court of Lies. I think that's the series name. It's The Kingdom of something something. I know I'm really selling this. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It's fine. It's good for vanilla knitting when I'm just knitting in the round and want to read at the same time. Chris and I are still on our Top Chef bullshit. We're on season 7 now, and that is the season with former Top Chef contestants that didn't win Top Chef, but they were really good, and we're loving this one because it's some of our favorite people are back, so that's been great. So just knitting, making, reading, watching TV, trying to really take care of myself and find time to relax. I've done quite a bit of thrifting recently, which I think I have some footage to include here at the end. So yeah, nothing really stands out, but I think sometimes that's kind of the best way to be, is just kind of the norm, status quo, and that's okay. That feels stable to me. I guess the one thing that is happening is we're doing plumbing right now. We hired a plumber to rough in and do pipes upstairs. So we're putting in a second bathroom in our little house, a second full-size bathroom, which I'm so excited about, to not have to go downstairs every time we need to use the restroom, and when we have guests to have 2 bathrooms. So that will be huge. We're just waiting now on the city to come inspect and do the pressure test to make sure everything's fine. And then from there, we can start to put the floors back in, do some tile, and eventually install. We're doing a toilet and a clawfoot tub. My house has dormers on the side, so the bathroom will be in the dormer part. So the ceilings are a little slanted, so that was going to make a shower tricky. So we thought like a nice soaker tub will be perfect. So I'll drop in some footage of the pipes there. If you didn't watch my Minnesota Yarn Shop vlog, you don't know that my husband fell through the ceiling. He is fine. He is fine. But the boards across the rafters snapped when Chris was walking across it because he didn't use the best board, which is fine. And his leg fell through the ceiling. So we have to eventually patch that. But so far, that's been the only unintended consequence of this plumbing project. So I really can't complain. Alrighty, I am gonna continue on with my workday. I took a little lunch break to connect with you all. So I hope wherever you are well, and I'll see you next time. Good morning. I am driving through my alley at 3 miles an hour so I can talk. Today's local yarn shop day, and I am, hello public radio, I am headed down to get Bentz farm to pick up Nichols, the lamb, and take him to Darn It Anyway in Stillwater for local yarn shop day. I'm going to stop and get myself an iced coffee. I'm so excited. I'm also a little anxious because, let's be real, I've never hung out with a lamb all day before in my sole custody, and I'm deeply humbled that Teresa is trusting me. All right, coffee has been acquired and a breakfast sandwich. There's a newish coffee shop in my neighborhood, Sunbeam, and I got a cold brew bourbon something that has like caramel and sea salt, and it's delicious. And one of the baristas had little sheeps tattooed up and down her arm. She had 13 of them, and so of course I had to ask. And then I was like, fun story, I'm going to pick up a lamb today. And she's like, oh, to eat? I was like, no, to chaperone. And so we had a nice little chat. She lived on a farm briefly in France and was in charge of taking care of the sheep, which I love. So that was a fun little moment. Hi, cutie. buddy.
I'm hushing the dog on the chain. I'm lining up stones on the edge of the bend. Rally the troops.
All right, we just got to darn it. And Nickel, are we ready?
I sing this softly to myself.
He's a good little car companion. And now we're gonna go
I
hang out
sing
with
this
him
softly
and have a grand old time.
I'm buried beneath the sand.
Oh my gosh.
There's no way to speak or reach out my hand. Watching the paper slowly unfold.
What do you think?
Bracing for news that I can't bear to hold. While I'm singing this song to myself, I sing this softly to myself. Tore up my jeans on the fence. This iron road I cannot bend, but my walking is lighter when I walk with a friend. I sing this softly to myself. I sing this softly to myself.
All right, so I've washed everything. I soaked it in a tub, blocked it with my towels, lightly wrung things out. So this is my fall frolic, and I wore it a bunch at home this year, but never out in public because I used a cashmere base and I hate how it has worn. It feels like such a waste of a beautiful color and pattern. It's the Fall Frolic by Sam Guerin. I never wear it out in public because of that. And that just is my preference. If you want to do that, who cares? It's just me, right? So eventually I will reknit this in a non-cashmere base because it bothers me. This is my Metamorphic by Andrea Mowry. It's worn really well. I love it. My vest number 3 by My Favorite Things. This is actually my first time blocking it. I lightly steamed blocked it, but I was so excited to wear it, I just put it on, so now I'm finally blocking it. My hand spun ranunculus. It's worn very well, washed well, love it. My Brooklyn Raglan by Tori Knits NYC. Multiple times blocking it, so this is a really well, it's inside out, which is why there's like some unwoven ends, but it's in great shape. And then of course my Love Note, which I've worn a bunch on this vlogcast. Tin Can Knits, just a glorious pattern. Fingering weight in Suri has held up really nicely. So they're going to be in the sun now that it's a day that's going to be in the 60s. They're washed, they needed to be washed, they're a little stinky, but I will say for a lot of these, it was my first time blocking them. So, or washing them since I blocked them. I love wool. That's so cool. And in case you wanted to see the plumbing, here we are. It's happening. I'm gonna have another toilet. I'm so excited. That's where the hole is underneath.